Hello, and welcome back to another edition of Potluck, your everything and anything talk and entertainment TV show. My name is Laura Hartman, and I'm your host. Today we have an amazing returning guest who may look familiar to you, and if she does, you probably have a huge smile on your face because you know that she's really, really cool. If she doesn't look familiar, then you're in for a treat. So without further ado, please welcome back to the show, pet communicator, or animal communicator, Maribeth Decker. So
Hi.
Welcome back.
Thank you so much.
How are you?
Doing great. I've got Tibor with me, and he's calmed down and happy, and so I think we're going to have a wonderful session.
Yeah. So Tibor, you brought Tibor because he is actually responsible for you becoming a pet or an animal communicator.
Yeah, I did want to bring him with me because I had after I became a Reiki master, which is an energy healing, my dog started communicating with me, and I really wasn't paying attention. I remember when my dog Timmy showed up as a full body apparition in the dining room while I was making dinner, and I'm like, Timmy! And then and then I got to go back and finish dinner, you know.
Right.
And my Eddie, when she passed, kids named her. Okay, she came with me on a business trip on a plane to Colorado because I had to put her down just before this business trip, and she was there for me, and I could feel her presence. I'm like, oh, that's, you know, thank goodness she was there, because I don't think I would have made it through the business meeting.
Right.
But it was like, I got other things to do. Then I get this boy, and he's a rescue dog, and he's got a lot of issues. You'll see, like, I got him at 1.5 years. He was no, he's a little thinner than this. Broken teeth. He's got some places that where the hairs never come back, and there's things that they say, well, that's where scars.
So he was badly abused.
Badly
by somebody.
abused. Yeah. And I think he broke away, and they found him running, as I like to say it, in the wilds of West Virginia, and they brought him to Fairfax County.
Oh, wow.
So I would sit like this on the couch with him, and I would see, and it happened more than once, so I knew it wasn't my imagination, a man dressed up in a really thick outfit, and he'd have his arm out like this, and a German Shepherd would come up and bite his arm. And I thought, that's like how they train guard dogs and stuff like that.
Academies, yeah.
Yeah. So, that's not a good memory, is it? So I said, well, given the fact that he's a rescue boy, it's time for me to pay attention. And then I started taking training to find out what I was getting and how to get more, and you know, how to really communicate back and forth.
Okay.
And this is a boy that got me started.
So where did you do your training, or how did you? I mean, can anybody communicate with their pet?
You know, my belief is yes. And my training I got with a great trainer. We did it online, so everything I've done is remote. I mean, people think I've got to stare in their eyes. I don't. You know. I think the fact that it blossomed for me after I became a Reiki master tells me that people could probably learn it if they're focused on it. I've met a lot of people who have done that. And I mean, truly, I know people want to hear, oh, Maribeth, you were communicating with animals since you came out of your mother's womb.
Right.
But that's not my story. It happened, probably, we're talking 10 years now, where my guys have communicated with me. And that tells me people could pick it up at any age based on what they want to do with their lives.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So sometimes I feel like if I'm away, I feel like I kind of like need to communicate to my cat. you know, and I don't know if I'm doing it or not, but you know, maybe I am. I don't know. Especially my youngest one, I always feel like I'm connected with her.
Yeah.
I
think that's one of the keys to getting much better at it, is to not discount what you think is already going on. One of my best pieces of advice is if you think like, gee, if my dog could talk, if my cat could talk, they'd just have said this.
Right.
You just believe that you actually heard something, you know, or if you feel you're connected, then something's happening.
then try to do it and
Try to do
don't
it.
discard
Don't
it.
discard it, and especially with animals who've passed. I mean, they made all this effort to come back and say hi,
Right.
enjoy it and say thank you and say, yeah, come back again.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I know you work with you do like group sessions for people to do stuff like that. How often do you do that?
Well, I'm working on that. Right now I do have what I call a Fur Buddy Healing Circle, which I have six animals, and we come together to do some healing and animal communication for them. But I'm working on a group session that'll start in June where I'll teach people how to communicate with their own animals.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
great.
it'll be online, and there'll be
neat.
yeah, there'll be all kinds of coaching materials and helping people do that and practice it.
Oh,
Yep.
that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Now, I've had a few personal experiences with working with you. You worked on my cat who has got some emotional and physical issues.
Yes.
And I mean, I just by a phone call, just talking to you, you like kind of like calmed her down and was able to get her to that happy place where I was like stressing out like big time. It's horrible to see your cat kind of suffering, you know. And then what really surprised me was the little toy poodle.
Yeah.
So there was a little toy poodle in my neighborhood that was, and it was a puppy, no less. It was less than a year old that was running around for like 2 weeks. And it may have been longer because I had happened to just see it in a neighbor's yard and then saw it running through the street. And I'm like, oh my God. So I went to see where it was going, and then it just was running, and ran away. So then immediately I reported it onto social media, and the next thing I know, there's dog rescue organizations, which are fantastic, that came into my neighborhood and just camped out day and night for like the next 2 weeks. And it never occurred to me to give you a call up until after I talked to a friend of ours, Beverly Nickerson, who was on our show before too. And I reached out to you, and all I did was email you to explain the whole situation. And then within like an hour, you emailed me back and asked me, how do you want to see the dog caught? You know, how do you want to catch it? And I described in detail, like I have a house set up where I have a fenced in yard, and if the two of the dog rescue people could like get on the outside of the fence, they could block him in. So. And I had talked to the dog rescue people. We had discussed that would be like the ideal scenario. So when I was doing that, that was probably like 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night. The two girls that were there camping out in my yard that had been there since like 2 o'clock in the afternoon had gone home to take their dogs out. So I was keeping an ear out open for the barking of this little puppy. And within like a half an hour, after sending the email to you, and then you said that you started working on, communicating with the puppy, all of a sudden the girls get back, and just as they got out of their car, that puppy went to my backyard, and they get on the phone with me, and they're like, Laura, you need to get outside now. come out back. And so like I ran out there, and I went out through my back door, and they caught the puppy.
Yeah.
They caught the puppy. It was just like
That's so cool.
how I had explained to you how I wanted it, and then you told me that you had communicated to it.
I did pick it up. It's not like mind control. I'm not doing that. It's totally different. We were talking about heart-centered. So what I was doing was saying, you're scared, you're tired.
And she was.
And they want to take care of you, and if you go here and you do this, you're going to get lots of love, you're going to get water, you're going to get food, you're going to get, it's all going to be good. Now, it's going to be a little scary, people are going to come, but, see you do that, and it's all going to get better. And just doing that with a loving kind of attitude, it's some, there are no guarantees with what I do, but that was fascinating. That was
amazing. I mean,
really
like, and as soon as we caught her, she just like she melted like butter.
Yeah.
They took her to the girls took her to the vet, and then they came back to my house. It was like midnight, and we gave her a bath in our because she's so little. We gave her a bath in the bathroom, sink.
Yeah.
And then she was like falling asleep as we're bathing her.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, it was just,
That was
thank you for
wonderful,
that,
yeah.
because that was just like unbelievable,
Yeah.
and so I mean, you do have that, and
Yeah, it's not my forte, because people want to know, on lost animals, they want to know where the animals are, and that's not something I'm very good at, but I am good at keeping the love connection
okay, so you
between
can
you and your
communicate,
animals.
right?
Yeah, to say, your people really love you, they want you back, they're,
Right.
do what
right.
you have to do to get yourself found,
Right.
and however that is. Sometimes we have happy endings
Right,
in that
right.
respect. Yeah.
Now, you just had, I know this is not your forte, but you said that earlier that you had mentioned that there was a cat that went missing. And
One of my clients, she texts me at 10:30 at night on a Sunday night, and I have cats, so I'm a sucker. I'm like, okay. So I knew Lily, and I started telling Lily, sure, she was up in a tree and she wouldn't come down. They got her down, and then she ran away.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Sunday night, if you remember, it was one of those nights where it was getting down to freezing. Remember
Oh,
that?
right. Yeah.
So we were all very worried. And so I just kept communicating with Lily that, she needed to go home. And she was a rescue cat, too.
Mm-hmm.
And first she was freaked out, and then she was like enjoying her freedom. They really love you. They want you home. And finally, Tuesday morning, she was still in the neighborhood, and they found her and brought her home. So she had stuck around, and I think that she let herself be found. Now, I think that's good enough. Then, that's the point, is reconnect. And however that happens, I turn that over to God and Source. But the point is, reunion.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Over a year ago, my cat that has the emotional issues.
Yeah.
Only my pet sitter had accidentally let her out, and she was gone for like 5 days.
Yeah.
And that was really bad because she's got some she's got kidney, liver, and stomach issues and so forth. So, when she got back, I think ever since she's been traumatized, but you've helped her to calm down. So, but it's just it's hard, because living in this area, we're so high stressed with with work and traffic and just dealing with stuff, and then our pets are there to help to calm us down and help to bring us joy and happiness.
Yes, exactly. And yet, when we have that vibration, they
feel it.
They feel it too. Yeah. They do. They feel it.
Yeah.
So I can't help. I do help. Relax, and it's sort of a family thing. I mean, you work on the animal, but you're kind of making sure that the people get a little bit too. So
Sure.
everybody's feeling more comfortable and more relaxed about the whole situation.
Right. So what are your next steps? So in June, you're going to do, teaching people how to communicate. What do you have? What else do you have planned?
I've got some. I'm going to be speaking. I'm going to be speaking to a class of Reiki masters on animal communication next month, and I'll be at a couple different venues, pet venues around the area. I haven't got any dates in my head, but I'll be doing things like that.
Okay.
And then still doing the animal communication on and off for people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So tell us. I know the last time you were on the show, you had given us some stories about with I think it was the miniature horse.
Oh yeah. Hiccup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any other? I mean, because you're an animal communicator, not just a pet communicator. So you can communicate with other types of animals,
Yeah, I can. I can, and I have. The most extraordinary one that I had was when I was out in Southern California. And I was with my mentor, Joan Ranquette, and we went to the Gibbon Rescue Conservancy, and we were all assigned to connect with this Gibbon family. So it felt like it's husband and wife. So I know they're not people, but they mate for life. And there was a husband, wife, teenage daughter, and a baby, and when I communicated with the father, I realized that he and the wife had had arguments over how to discipline the daughter. And I'm like, this sounds like something I went through 15 years ago with my husband and my daughter. And I'm like, you're kidding me, you're kidding me. Wild animals have teenage problems.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was really an eye-opener, and it made me have a lot more respect for animals and for how, that they do have families and they do have issues and things like that. I mean, I don't go around checking in, but that was extraordinary to me, and that just changed my whole viewpoint about animals.
How long?
Even more.
Was that like when you were just getting started with the whole?
This was last year. I went down for an intensive. We really did an intensive connecting with wild animals in sanctuaries and zoos and things like that, just to expand our abilities.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what about insects? I just saw there was a video I saw on Facebook where there was a bee that was born without wings, and so this woman took care of the bee, and it ended up responding to it lovingly, responding to her lovingly, and kind of like nudging up against her face, and just, you would never think of an insect being like that, but I guess any living being could be like that.
I think so. Well, I didn't have quite that experience, but my nephew had a caterpillar. Does that count? I connected with the caterpillar.
It turns into a beautiful butterfly, sure.
Yeah, so he had a caterpillar, and he put it in a glass jar, and he says, "Yeah, Maribeth, can you connect with the caterpillar?" And the caterpillar, it was pretty simple, but it was like, I'm bored out of my tree. So they have little tiny poops, and it was pushing its poop around it, something to do. So it wanted more leaves and more, stems and more. So we went out, we went hiking, and we filled it all up. And he told me that the caterpillar doubled in size, and so for me, that thought, well, I think we made it happier.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what else to say.
Tell, right? Yeah.
But it did get bigger, and it did seem like it had a few more things to do with its life.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, that was a small one, but yeah.
So, you've worked with some animals that have been, he's been traumatized. Is it different to work with animals that have been more? It's probably more work for you to work with animals that have been traumatized, like you need repeated therapy with them?
So they don't have, animals that have been brought up with love naturally trust human beings, and so you can imagine that animals who haven't been brought up that way, I've met ones who just think all humans are bad. That's it. That's it, and based on their experience. So it takes a little more time to teach them discernment, like there's good people and there's bad people. Look into their hearts, and get used to that. You can start to trust. Do you have to teach them to look into your heart? I do some energy healing to open up, the third eye. The ability. That's where it feels like discernment comes here a little bit. Okay. And then the heart is also focus on that. So yeah, I do that for them.
Right. No, I know a few weeks, probably more like 5 weeks ago, I was at a vet, and I met a woman who happened to work for a rescue over in Alexandria, and hopefully I'm going to get her on the show because it sounds like she does some pretty amazing things. She works with another rescue who brings dogs over from the Middle East who are shot at. And they're not shot, they don't shoot to kill, they just shoot at the dogs. So the dogs get injured.
Target practice,
Yeah. And so they go over there and bring these dogs over to help to, get them treated and then hopefully adopted out. And I know that you tried to help one. I know you only had one session with the dog, but this dog had the discernment as well.
We were working on it because he didn't. We assume that, and it's true. They've been our partners for they figured 20 to 40,000 years. That's an automatic bond. But if you bring up a dog in a way where human beings aren't part of the picture, you have to offer him the idea that bonding with a good human being is a really great way to live your life. And so that's just that's a whole new concept for some dogs to think, well, this guy here.
Right.
To think that you could have a good life with human beings. And so we do a little bit of that, showing them how good it could be, helping release some of the pain from the past experience, some energy healing around that, if they're open to it, and
Sure.
show them how you be a good family member. You know, what
Right.
sort of what the
What happens
Those
if what happens if they can't do that, or they struggle? Then, what do you or is there hope? Is there always hope?
There isn't always hope. There
Okay.
isn't always hope. There are some dogs who are, I'm sorry to say that, some dogs who don't get it. I don't know what, there's some dogs that can't live in families for the safety of the family. Now, this guy looked like he was going to be one of them, and he turned himself right around once he got how good it was. And he's just like a little love boy,
Right.
because he was growling at us, and he was baring the teeth and like
Right.
and we were able to turn him around. The others, but some just some don't get it. Some, I've met a couple where there's some kind of a glitch in the brain where it felt like something was set off, almost like a grand mal seizure, except the way that it happened was violent.
Oh, wow.
So the dog, and it would just trigger,
automatically be
yeah. And so
just violent all the time.
no, it was triggered, and you wouldn't know why, when, or where, why. So somebody had put their dog down at 3 years.
Oh no.
And we connected with that dog because it was a very traumatic experience for the family. So there are more happy endings than not, but
Right, but then there are those,
where it's just not going to work out for whatever reason.
Right. So what about animals or pets who have like issues of being like hyperactive or just being sluggish, or just and they may not have been abused, but they're just something that they just have adapted to, maybe from their owners, or just, I don't know.
Well, we look and see, is it a problem? Usually people come to me because the behavior is bothering them. So we find out why is it bothering them, and what would they like to see them do differently.
Right.
And so it's usually a give and take. It's like, I'll be less hyperactive, but I might need another walk. And maybe you don't need an animal communicator to tell you that, but
Right.
but sometimes it's stuff like that where they need some, or they need more love, or they so they might need more love and attention, or they just might need some new activities that help them. And then I get in there and show them why the behavior change would make their people happy. So you see it's a give and take there?
Sure.
That makes sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So, tell me about a very unique experience. I know you already talked about the ones in California, and we have 3 minutes.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, and it goes by fast.
Yeah. Okay, so my latest unique experience was a little cat named Mia, and Mia had kidney failure, and she's one kidney that's shut down and another at 10%. And the vet was telling my client, you got to put her down. She's not going to put up with the surgery. And so I connected with Mia, and Mia says, like, no, I'm ready. I'm for it. I said, no, look, the surgery is going to be this, and you're going to have a feeding tube afterwards, and you're going to feel like crap, and something's going to go down your throat. And then she had also lost, somewhere in being hospitalized, lost the back legs, use of the back legs. So it's like, I said to her person, I said, I know what your vet said, but I'm telling you what I'm hearing from Mia. So she went in and did the surgery, and 2 weeks later, Mia is doing well. She's recovering. What really blew my mind was that she was at a really low point and wasn't eating. And I said, she wanted to get her feeding tube out. And I said, look, Mia, your mom says you got to eat cat food and drink water for 7 full days, and then you can get the tube out. And she'd been eating about 1/4 tablespoon.
Oh, wow.
After I got on the phone with her, she ate 1/4 can.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like she got it, you know.
Uh-huh.
So we're hoping that she'll get her feeding tube out in about a week if things continue. So that's pretty extraordinary that they will actually listen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, do you ever get into a situation where there's like a lot of animals in a household and one won't listen or two won't listen, or
Yes.
or maybe that's your own house, or
Yes. Yeah, I'm working with my cats. Yeah, right now my cats. I got a Shadow. Funny thing is, I was working with somebody else's cats when the younger cat was jumping on the older cat and riding him like on a rodeo. And I said, don't do that anymore. And then they stopped. Then my little cat was listening, so she jumped on my older cat and she started running and riding him around. And I had to talk to her and say, that's not what we were we were talking about in the session. So we've had to discuss that in our own family.
Aw.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like we've run out of time.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank
I really
you for having
appreciate
me.
it. And if you're just tuning in now, make sure you catch us on the web at www.potluck-online.org. And to catch Maribeth, you go to sacredgrove.com.
That's right.
Sacredgrove.com. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. All right, bye-bye.